Bryan, one of the things that we didn't get to, and then we'll see what Tausch wants to find out from you if he stays awake at his table. We didn't spend a whole lot of time talking about the two offensive linemen that the Packers drafted. Anthony Belton, who was the second-round pick, mammoth tackle fellow out of NC State, and seventh-round pick John Williams out of Cincinnati, who was recruited by Luke Fickell to the Bearcats program and played for him, who also is an aerospace engineer graduate. So he's literally a rocket scientist, which will be very interesting to see how that helps or doesn't help his taking in the playbook and learning the plays. He says that being smart helps you. You know that as well. I'm curious, though. They are both really big dudes. Not that you weren't a big dude. You're a big dude, too. But you take those two picks, you take Aaron Banks. Do you think there has been a, pardon the pun, changing of the guard on this offensive line as they get bigger and bigger and bigger?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, and we kind of talked about this a little bit too, but I think there's a shift in mindset of what they want this group to look like up front, and kind of the mentality change of where they want to go with this run game and how they want it to look. And I think because of how good Jacobs was last year with a lot of the principles they were doing in the run game with the duo and downhill run scheme and a lot of tight inside zone type run game, that's the body style that they got with those types of guys. I mean, Banks, monster human being, obviously. Belton, monster human being. And then obviously I'm blanking on the seventh round pick's name.
John
Williams, is that what it is?
Williams. Forgettable
Williams,
name.
yeah. I mean, no, it's not. I should know that. But I got a name. I said Williams. Another really big guy. So, like, you look at kind of the direction they're going, and they're kind of looking, or it seems like they're going towards the bigger bodied offensive lineman. Now, like you said, it wasn't like when I was there or like when Tausch was there, we were small by any stretch of the imagination, but we certainly didn't have a guy that was over 320 pounds. Like, we just didn't. Like, we were all from that. Maybe TJ, if he ate heavy that week, he would be 320. Like, right? Like, seriously. Like, and that's just being honest. But like, TJ was like a 315 guy. Like, we were all 315 and under. Like, that's where we played at. And we were never 330. Like, that's just where we were at. Maybe Tausch. I don't know where Tausch's guys were at with Flanny and Rivera and those guys, but like, they weren't the 335, 340, category either. I mean, Big Cliffy was a big guy, but he was never like that. I don't think so. So,
Well, it
like, you're
depends if we were out
seeing
in
this.
Vegas. If we were out in
Yeah,
Vegas for a week or two,
well, depends. But it kind of looks, and Tausch, you can tell me if I'm wrong. It seems like, and I hope they don't get away from the LaFleur model of what he's really good at, which is the outside zone and setting teams up with this stretch outside zone, which I mean, Banks is from that school of thought, right? Like, that's the
Mm-hmm.
Shanahan scheme, is the stretch outside zone. Like, that's the bread and butter. I mean, he comes from that scheme, so he knows how to run that scheme. But it seems like this Philly mindset of giant human beings up front and hiding backs as long as you can is, like, kind of what is being done. And, like, to me, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm definitely not saying it's a bad thing, but it just seems that seems to be the shift. And whether or not I'm right about that, I mean, I don't know, but I could just say this: there wasn't many guys that are that size that were being drafted in my time there. It just wasn't a thing.
so Blue, how much of that do you think comes back to what that playoff game looked like against Philly? Because they're always, the old copycat league bit. That's a cliche, and teams will say, "This is how Philadelphia won. We want to win a championship." But I really think that Elgton Jenkins injury and how the offense looked, it set a major red flags for everybody up there, because Matt LaFleur has done things a certain way. Last year with Josh Jacobs, they shifted. We discussed that ad nauseum and what that looked like. And the idea that you're going to, part of the outside zone is all of that marrying up. Josh Jacobs likes being on a gun. He likes to do it. There's a lot of stuff that is now almost like you're adapting to where you're at. And Philly did it with these big guys, and Green Bay got punked. They got bully balled by Philly's defense, and they're looking at it saying, we're not interested in just making the playoffs and being a 7 seed. We need to be able to we need to be able to play bully ball too, because in order to get through the NFC now, Philly ain't going anywhere. Detroit, their defensive line, nobody. If you want to win against the big boys, you got to be able to play bully ball, and I don't think they thought they could, and that's why they're bringing a couple bullies in to kind of reset that mindset. That's at least how I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. What happened? What happened in Philly when Elton went out? I think for sure sent off the alarm bells, right? Like that
How could
definitely
it
sent
not?
off the
Yeah.
alarm bells. Yeah,
Yep.
I mean that definitely sent off the alarm bells, and obviously, I mean you know this, Tausch. Like when you lose a guy, right, a starting guy, a high quality guy, and you bring in a backup, there's obviously going to be some drop in play, right? Like there, I mean that's just inevitable, no matter what, right? Like I mean, but what happened was enormous, right? And then what incurred was obviously Philly's D line doing whatever they wanted, right? And they at least interior wise, they did whatever they wanted. And obvious in Green Bay this offseason going to get Banks, and then they get Belton, and then Goody says Belton's not competing for the left tackle job, which then tells me he's going to be competing for an interior job, which then tells me that's right tackle because he's obviously not competing for the left guard spot. I mean, right guard, excuse me, because he's not competing for the left guard spot with Banks. So you're right. They are looking to get bigger and more, I guess, like you could say, bully ball interior of that offensive line to combat that situation, right? To combat the Phillies, combat the Detroit, defensive lines and the bigger groups up front. Because because the NFL goes through these patterns and changes every 5 or 6 years. I feel like the NFL constantly changes in the body types and the style of play, and this is where we're at right now, right? Like this is it. This is the flavor, and you have to be able to adapt and change to it. And I'm going to tell you what, like if you're able to get these large human beings, right, to run LaFleur's scheme and hide Jacobs for that long, and Jacobs is able to make a cut and go vertical, it's going to be devastating to defenses because they're not going to be able to see Jacobs. And then by the time he explodes through the line of scrimmage and he's onto a linebacker or a safety, he's already 5 yards down the field like Saquon is. And that's scary stuff, man, because those backs, when they get to the open space and no one's touched them and they got a full head of steam, you don't want to see them with that head of steam and all that room to operate. So I'm hoping, while I know Jacobs loves the downhill scheme and he loves the duo because he's so good at jump cutting and finding open space, I still hope that they get back to LaFleur's bread and butter principles because it is so good with the play action and how it marries. So that's what I hope still.
And the question I have is, because you can have all that, and the idea of road graders. I mean, there were road graders on our teams that played, but the league is still going to be about athleticism and getting up on the next level in that outside zone game or getting up on the linebackers. But Josh Sitton said it best. You can run the football, you can do all that, but offensive linemen are paid to protect the quarterback. And when you get these mauler types and you end up having a franchise quarterback, and this is what's unique about Green Bay, it was always, if you can't pass protect, you can't play. Period. Fin.
Yep.
If you're a running back and you don't know the protections, and you aren't going to be out there. You're not going to be out there when it's passing and it's that time. So that is going to be the interesting part. When you go to this, you go big, you go physical. Can you protect the quarterback? Because Jordan Love is $55 million in. you better still be able to do that. And I think that's going to be the process as you watch some of these battles unfold. Yeah, it's going to be great. You get a couple of big, pancake blocks, and they're firing pancakes at the screen on ESPN. That's all great. But can you protect Jordan Love when the money's on the table? Because I still believe that's going to be the determining factor.
That's right. Sitton always said it. Run block for show, pass block for dough. And you're at the end of the day, like, you're not running the ball on 3rd down and 8. You're just not doing it. You're pass blocking. And who makes the most money on the team? Who are you protecting? The guy behind you. And that's just what it is.
So does that
Blue? Do you think that Belton is he going to have a shot? And I know we haven't seen him. He's done some individual stuff, but is there a chance he unseats Sean Ryan?
I think they're going to give him a chance. I think they're going to give him every chance, is what it appears, right? Like, I mean, that's what it seems like. And again, like, Sean Ryan, I mean, the guy, he's battle tested. He's done this, I feel like, every year. Like, and it's the same thing with Sheed, right? Like, they go into it and they have to be, they have to be ready to compete for their job. And I'm not saying that is a bad thing for the team. That is a really good thing for the team. I look at it from the individual standpoint, right? Because, like, I understand the battle mentality of it for the individual. Like, it's a rough business, right? Like, it just is. Like, but I feel like this is going to be a camp battle. There's going to be 2 camp battles going on the offensive line. It's going to be the right guard and it's going to be the left tackle. And that's going to be 2 major spots to look at throughout camp. So for sure, yeah. I definitely think.
I think, Jason, that last season, while everything was about wide receivers and Jordan Love's injury and is Jeff Hafley's defense, you know how you kind of get caught up in storylines, and obviously the offseason we do this a bunch. I think the biggest underreported or not talked about issue was the O-line, and it was a blind spot, I believe, from a media standpoint, and you saw it. And the reason this urgency talk and why it kind of irritated me, 𝙒𝙬𝙁 wasn't being urgent. 𝙒𝙬𝙁 felt the DEFCON urgency was the guys up front. And just because we didn't feel that or think that, that's what they felt. And that's what they've addressed in the biggest way on this football team. And they know that they need to be that much better. And I don't think as a group, and I could even put us in that, I think we all thought Josh Myers struggled. I think this is pretty much a referendum that almost everybody on that group struggled last year. It was not good enough, and they're not gonna just stand pat and expect it to get better. They went and made moves to do that.
All right, so let me devil's advocate you on that, though. And Bryan, you watch the film every week, and you don't pull punches, right? I mean, look, Josh Myers is a great dude. Right, we really like him, and he overcame a lot last year. He lost his dad in training camp. He had some injury issues he played through. He tore his pec on Thanksgiving and played the rest of the season. He is not one of the great centers. He's not Jason Kelce. We all get it. Otherwise, he would have had a bunch of suitors, and instead he ended up with the Jets on basically a backup deal, right? 1 year, I think $3.5 million is what he got. So I get that. But is it possible that watching the Philadelphia Eagles run roughshod over them after having their best offensive lineman leave with a stinger after 4 plays, that maybe this is possibly a little bit of an overcorrection? Because for me anyway, if Jordan Morgan was dealing with that shoulder injury from training camp on, so let's see what he looks like now, if he looks like a first-round pick. But you're telling me that a group that had their quarterback get sacked only 14 times, that had a running back who had 1,300-plus yards and 15 touchdowns, for a group that when there were times where they had the chance to run out the clock, they did it. Are you telling me they were that bad? I don't think they were as good, and they had a lot of continuity because a lot of guys played a lot of snaps together. I think they were the second most by an offensive line to play the starting five together. But Bryan, did you see them being that bad? Because, and I know what Tausch is thinking, because I think about it all the time too. Rob Domofsky wanting to do a positive story about the offensive line, and Matt LaFleur absolutely pooping on it from the podium. That does not happen very often. Usually coaches just go along with the narrative so you can write a nice little story, and he said, no way. Basically, they haven't been that good. So you're the one who watches the film with the knowledge of an offensive lineman. That is way more than I have. Were they that bad? Can you say that now on May 7th when you didn't necessarily say it on November 7th or December 7th?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not changing my description of them.
Yes.
I'm not changing it. I'm not changing my tune. I think, and here's the thing. Tausch is correct. Myers, what I've stated from the beginning of this season till the end of the season, Myers upgraded his play. That's what I've stated from the beginning to the end of it. Now, where that standard is to what the Packers wanted or to what the rest of the league wanted, that's not my job to judge that. What I've said, how he's played this year compared to years past, was better. And I think I'll go over that with anybody, and I'll feel great about going over the tape with that with anybody. But if we go and we look at individually these guys and how they played as a unit, I don't look at it as they played poorly. I think there were games, and I think where LaFleur gets irritated is in the games against Detroit, in the games against Minnesota. There were quarters and times where they struggled, and he doesn't like that. Okay, so we're looking at certain games, and we're talking big games, right? Obviously, big moments and big games where this group kind of struggled at times, and you can't have that from this group. You just can't, because in these situations, you're going to need your quarterback to perform, and obviously your running back, because that was a lot of this offense last year. And you can't have the guys up front struggle in moments of the game. They need to be kind of workhorses for you and be a point of solidarity and work as one and be a consistent. And they weren't in those situations. So that's where I think his frustration was. I don't think it was an overall standpoint for that group. But the moves that they made obviously stem from the Philly game. That was a big one. Obviously, the Philly game was a big move. I think another one, just like the wide receiver group, it stems from the contract situations that are happening in that offensive line room. 3 guys up this year, right? You have to make moves. You have to regroup this offensive line because contractually you cannot re-sign all of them. So there's another move. And I think also, as Tausch mentioned, they want to be able to play a little bit of bully ball. They want to be able to have that mentality, and they want to compete or have these guys compete for those jobs to be able to, if they need to, do that up front. Now, how those jobs shake out, right? Can Belton beat out Sean Ryan, or is Jordan Morgan going to beat out Sheed? I don't know. I don't know how that's going to play out, right? Obviously both those guys have that opportunity, or going to have that opportunity to do that. But by no means did Sean Ryan play bad. I will stand on that hill. I'm not gonna I'm not saying no, I'm not gonna go there. Rashid, I said it in the beginning of the season. He struggled in the beginning of the season. I think he got better as the season went on. I thought Zach Tom, as the season got later in the season, Zach Tom struggled a little bit, and I think because of his pec, he struggled towards the end of the season. And so I think the way I watched the film and how I looked at it, I think I was pretty accurate with how I looked at these guys. But I'm not going to sit here now in May because of how they drafted and who they brought in from a money standpoint, be they play bad. Nope, I'm not doing it.
So let me ask you this then, because one of the things that I'm always leery of as a reporter is I don't ever want to assume things, right? We know what happens when you assume. But for me, and look, I get to work with two of the all-time great offensive linemen in Packers history. And they also write my stories for me when I'm writing about 𝙒𝙗𝙗, and they both talk so glowingly about him, like you did the previous season, and you guys basically did all the heavy lifting for one of my stories. Is there any chance that they don't see him through the same lens that you guys do? Is there any because one thing that is different about him is that he is not one of these big gargantuan offensive linemen. �12 even said he's different. Now that's okay to me, right? I'm okay with a right tackle who doesn't fit the big mammoth offensive lineman suit. But is there any chance that the inside 1265, they're not looking at him the same way that two guys who played the same position at an elite level have seen him play? Is there any chance of that?
Tauscher, you want to take it first?
Yeah, I mean, we'll find out. Like, all this stuff is cute, and we're all sitting here talking, they're talking. And the bottom line is, and, Bryan brought up contracts, right? Well, there's 3 guys that are going to be up, and you're not going to keep anybody. And I agree. You do start maneuvering, but you do that in the draft. You don't go out and pay top dollar for the top free agent guard if it's about money and it's about that. It's about getting better. They didn't think it was good enough. And yes, we can watch the film and we could think the guys are doing good and they're doing it. Do I think that there's always a little overreaction after a playoff loss? Yes, that is the world that we live in. And those things do leave marks on general managers' mindsets of, we can't win doing it this way. And when you start looking at 𝙒𝙗𝙗, I'm going to be shocked if he doesn't have an extension before camp.
Yeah, me
because
too.
I would think 𝙒𝙗𝙗 and his team are going to look at it in a way, and obviously not to the same degree that Jordan Love did, but he had the pec. He's a really good player. And I could see him saying, well, I don't know how much practice I'm going to do come training camp until I get a new deal. Mm-hmm. And my guess is they see things. You heard �12 talk. You heard 𝙒𝙗𝙗 pretty much put him in the Hall of Fame as a center.
Which he's not playing.
That's not what he plays. So we all look at him as a really good offensive lineman, and I'll be shocked if Green Bay, now what value dollar-wise that comes with, 𝙒𝙗𝙗 ain't going anywhere. He will be the right tackle in Green Bay for the next 4 or 5 years. I'd almost guarantee that. I'm not going to give you the homer 100%, but I feel pretty strongly that's how Green Bay feels about him too.
Yeah, I mean, I think for sure. I mean, there's one thing Green Bay doesn't do, right? And that's let young, good offensive linemen walk out the door. Like guys that are playing at a really high level. Like that's just something they've never done. Like I don't guys in like in their going into their second contract, like letting those guys just walk out the door. Like I've never seen them do that. So I don't see them doing that with 𝙒𝙗𝙗 in this instance. I mean, if they did, I would be shocked. I really would be. Because you look at it, like, obviously there was going to be change with Myers departing, and the plan was for Elgton to kick in, right? Like, Elgton kicks in. Now we have an opening at left guard, and we saw what happened in the Philly game when we brought in someone from the bench to play left guard. It did not go well, right? So the big acquisition, the big acquisition in free agency was obviously was the reaction to that. Tauscher's right. It had to be better, obviously. Like, there is no doubt about that. Like, that is the reaction to it. I don't think, Tauscher, maybe you disagree with me. I don't think the reaction to that was Elgton wasn't good enough at left guard. I don't think that was it. Like, maybe you think that, but I don't think it was that Elgton wasn't good enough at left guard. Yeah, I don't think it was that.
Yeah, I looked at it as Elgton Jenkins, and we said this last year, all season, that Elgton Jenkins is going to finish his career as a center. That's what we thought.
Yeah.
And there's nobody, what was apparent to them, you can't count on Jordan Morgan. Jordan Morgan wants to play left tackle. He's going to get that opportunity to win that spot, and we need to be a lot better. That's what Green Bay decided to do. That was their urgency point, because the NFL is not complicated. You can hear things, there's storylines, but when pen has to hit paper, That's when you find out what's really going on. So when you want to say Sean Ryan's playing good football, I agree with Bryan. I thought Sean Ryan took a step. He got challenged, and I thought he met the challenge last year. Now can he do it again? That Green Bay will say he's good enough that we need to pay him. That's what this comes down to, and we'll find that out along with some other things up front.
All right, last thing before we let Bryan go. You both talked about Elgton. There is some question, and if I showed you my to-do list, this is on it, to text him today. There are some rumblings that maybe he has not been at the off-season program. Now, I don't know that for certain. He was not in the pictures that were posted, right?
Juicy.
We did not get a chance to ask Matt LaFleur. So I want to be very clear. I don't know about his attendance. Okay?
But it's juicy. You'd admit it's juicy
if accurate, then it is definitely very juicy.
Okay.
But he's got 2 years left on his deal. They just paid Aaron Banks a crap ton of money. He plays for a team that he knows they don't like to give out third contracts. He's got 2 years left on his second contract.
Oh, listen to these breadcrumbs. I'm at the passery, and there's breadcrumbs all on the floor. And they're leading to some real juicy stuff. It's juicy.
If you're him and they have predicated their offensive line juggling on you moving to center, is there a reason for him to say, look, let's be preemptive. I'm going to turn 30 this year. I know how you feel about guys that are 30 years old.
God, I wish I had a picture of Hansel and Gretel that I could put up on the screen right now.
I think it's still at the Thunder Trio. So, do you have any, I don't want to say concern, because we don't know. Maybe he had stuff going on and maybe he'll be there on Monday. But do you have any concern that maybe this whole plan hinges on a guy that wants to make sure he gets his before it's too late and he gets into the final year of his deal, and then they just say, okay, well, now we'll play Jacob Monk there instead in 2026 or whatever it might be? Bryan?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly
stunned.
an interesting. I mean, listen, I don't. If he is away because of a contractual situation, which again I have no idea either, it would be interesting because, like you said, a lot of these moves are based off him kicking to the center position, and he is a very important piece to this because he is a very smart player. He knows this scheme in and out. He's very smart. He's very talented. He's learned from a lot of good players about this scheme. Like, he was next to Corey for a long time. He was next to Dave for a long time. Like, he knows this thing in and out. So he's a very valuable piece to this puzzle for the Packers. So and he knows that too. So if that is the play here, I wouldn't be shocked. And the thing is, and the thing is, I wouldn't. If he looks to get a year added and more money, I would do it. I mean, certainly I would do it. You know what I mean? I would do it.
Yep, I'm Team Elgton. All right, I've got a text message started. I don't anticipate a reply, but I will inquire because the breadcrumbs. Again, I have no idea. Maybe he had family things. Maybe he was there and they just missed a picture of him. But we will. I do think this is something that we need to monitor. Bryan, thank you for stepping in. As always, you're the best.